This is Nick from Caldera Magazine, and I'm with Nick from the Cultural Reset. Um, and we're going to do a little interview today. Unfortunately, Shannon Irvin um, couldn't be with us today. Um, so, but
Yeah,
we'll
she's
still.
just yeah, we couldn't both of us couldn't meet today, but the culture reset is definitely like run by both of us for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Um, yeah, it does say you are creator and editor in chief. Is that how is the sort of um, how do you share responsibility within your roles?
Yeah. So so yeah, so basically me and Shay just kind of work together to manage the volunteers, manage the Instagram pages and everything, just make sure everything as a whole kind of comes together.
Mm.
So I guess a little brief intro on what the Cultural Reset is.
Yeah.
The Cultural Reset is essentially a platform that is a subsidiary of the Color of Music Collective. And essentially, what we kind of focus on is uplifting POC and LGBTQ plus artists specifically in the music industry. So what we kind of do to do that is basically through album reviews. We have a writing team that we kind of work with that kind of produces album reviews with us. We do artist interviews. So we interview a bunch of different POC and LGBTQ plus artists that are big change makers in the industry. And that kind of allows them to tell their stories kind of unfiltered. And we also do playlists. And like we curate playlists every Friday that features songs that are specifically by POC and LGBTQ plus artists. So I mean, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot that we do, and it's a lot of coordination. But we have like a great team of like I think 18 volunteers. There's 17 or 18 volunteers that we work with, and like it just it's fantastic. Everybody is just really really pumped about the mission, and everybody really works together to bring it to fruition. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a great platform that you have. Um, where did the concept come from?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I came up with it in like late July.
Okay.
And essentially, once I joined the Color of Music Collective, I noticed that they kind of have a specific emphasis on POC and LGBTQ plus inclusion in the music business side of
Mhm.
the entertainment industry. So I was thinking, it might be best to also kind of do this for artists specifically, because the biggest problem in the music industry with artists is that you have these music business people, these big actors, these gatekeepers essentially that are limiting the access of these marginalized groups to the music industry because they don't think they'll sell, because they don't like the content that they create, because they don't think that it's marketable to wide audiences. And essentially, the music industry as a whole kind of throws these people out because they want to find somebody who fits the cookie cutter white cis version of what can sell as an artist.
Definitely.
So that was a big problem for me when I was thinking about, the music industry, all I know about it. And I figured that this year, 2020, not this year, hopefully
Mhm.
never
Yeah.
again, no more 2020. But um, like with 2020, like happening, like everything with the protests that were happening this summer, BLM, I thought that this might be a good, way to actually have some sort of tangible impact in an industry that's kind of overlooked when it comes to inclusion. Because TV's kind of already had its sort of movement. Like they've had the Me Too movement, they've had this movement towards diversity and inclusion. Like it's happening, it's working in television and film.
Yeah.
With music, there's kind of a standstill if we're being honest. Like you still have artists that are segmented into certain genres according to their sexuality or according to their race. And it's still like a big issue. So and then like the mainstream, news is not really gonna cover the entertainment industry because most people are just like, oh, it's entertainment, it's no problem. But I just figured like this is an industry that really needs it, and this is an industry that I want to tackle with these efforts.
Definitely. Yeah. Does that come from any personal experience working within the music industry?
So if I'm being honest, the majority of my experience is in television and film.
Mhm.
So I interned in like The Daily Show and CBS News, and I worked at Tamron Hall on ABC, and that's been the majority of my experience.
Mhm.
But I do sing and I do songwrite, and I have performed at venues. And I've seen like discrimination kind of happen on the venue side of things. So like occasionally you'll have a venue that will be like, oh well, you know, we want an artist that, you know, fits our target audience. You know what I mean? Like the people who come into the venue, somebody that appeases to them, which like on the surface is, you know, it makes sense, it makes good business sense. But if you look at your audience and you're only finding artists that appeal to them and they look a certain way and they have like the same sort of cultural connection, that can lead to a lot of exclusionary practices. So I remember that I heard a conversation like that in the venue and I was like, ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like so I mean, I've never, if I'm being completely honest, I haven't really experienced anything that was outright in my career experience, but I've seen it and like I know that it exists. So
Definitely.
that was enough for me.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So, what kind of criteria, um, or is there any sort of criteria, beyond POC and LGBTQ plus, when deciding which artists to interview or review their album or anything?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. I think you're frozen for a second.
Sorry about that. Um,
What was the question?
yeah,
Like,
so I was just wondering, is there any criteria when deciding which artists to interview and review, um,
yes. Oh my
beyond
God.
obviously the obvious?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So this is like these are like our, well, like one of the biggest staples that we have is that like the lyrical content of your music, if it does have lyrics to it,
Mhm.
it cannot it can't have any derogatory language towards like any marginalized groups. So if you're going to be submitting a track, like you can't be saying like, oh, women are this and women are that, or basically like derogatory terms and derogatory like phrases that are
Mhm.
discriminatory. So we kind of make sure that all the artists that we cover, all the artists that we feature on our playlists, album reviews, don't have any of that. We also really like to talk to artists that are activists in their own right too. So we try to find artists like that. Not all of the artists in our artist interview are like that, but we try to find them because they have, I think, a really unique perspective when it comes to how the music industry operates and how, or rather, they have like a distinct awareness
Yeah.
about how it operates. I'll say that, and they definitely have a lot to bring to the artist interviews when they talk about, what it's been like for
Mhm.
them and their peers navigating the industry. So yeah, it's a big limitations on that. No foolishness.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. I
Your
guess.
hair is glorious. I need to tell
Oh,
you this. I was thinking, I'm like, what?
thank you. Yeah,
Wow,
it's like quarantine growth. It's
killer.
been
How in the
so long since
world?
I got a cut. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know.
um, so you ask a lot of the people you interview about, these sort of industry politics and like climates. So what are your thoughts on those types of things within the music industry?
Whew. Oh, there's many of them. I
Yeah.
think, well, I think the easiest, thought is that it's stupid. I think that, like I was saying before, I think that there's a big problem when it comes to the music business's approach to artists of color and artists that are LGBTQ plus, because there's this kind of inherent segmentation that happens with them in terms of marketing. So, like for example, like if an artist were to come out of the closet, so maybe they're straight art, maybe people think that they're straight before they come out,
Mhm.
like, and then after they come out, like the marketing and sort of the target audience starts targeting directly towards LGBTQ plus audiences instead of just mainstream audiences like they were appealing to before. So I think a really good example of this, I think, is Sam Smith.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, I think
thought it
Sam.
was the same. I thought of the
Oh,
same artist. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's literally what happened with his career. Like, he created a lot of mainstream music that everybody was singing. You could find it everywhere. Like, I know I'm not the only one, stay with me, all around the world. And then after he came out as non-binary, then like me personally, I haven't heard as much from him since,
Yeah.
or them since, excuse me. Um, so I really think that that's a big problem on that end. And then on the POC end, when we talk to our artists about, this type of stuff too, like for example, if you're a woman of color and you are specifically Black women too, if you're a Black woman that's gonna embark in this industry and navigate the industry, like people are going to expect you to be Beyonce. They're going to expect you to be Rihanna. They're going to expect you to be Nicki Minaj. They're going to expect you to get up on your stage and, shake it or whatever and, do exactly what those artists do.
Mhm.
And the truth is, one, like not everybody wants to do that. Like that's not something that everybody wants to do with their art, with their image. And I think that and ultimately make them more money.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a big problem. So I think, you know, we're hoping with the cultural reset to kind of bridge that gap. So we want to become this sort of platform essentially that is like the go-to platform for music industry professionals to find, talent or see what's out there with talent and like read about their experiences and try to change their own business practices
Mhm.
to, just better the way that they do business. We want to be a platform where young creatives that are that are POC and LGBTQ plus. Like we want to make sure that they, can come to our platform and see these incredible artists that are just killing it. And then we also, want to be a platform where just the average person can come and just listen to new music by people POC and like LGBTQ plus artists. Like,
Yeah.
like I think that's what we're trying to do with that. So that was a long-winded answer.
No, it was
I'm so
great.
sorry.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point of some artists being, you know, I think over labeled into a specific category and then being marketed towards that
Hmm.
specific audience and instead of like just anyone else, Um,
Exactly.
and I don't know, like it reminds me of terms that people use for bands and artists, like oh, this is a female fronted punk band, and it's like, why do you
Yeah.
have to say female fronted? Like, can't you just say it's a punk band?
Oh my goodness. That's
Stuff like
another
that.
huge problem. Ah, God. So we actually talked about this with Victoria Canal. She's an artist that we interviewed, and she was talking about she's disabled. So she I think she's missing her left arm. And so she, is an incredible musician, incredibly skilled. And she talked about these experiences she's had with like corporations that would like invite her to perform in like, their own venue or for like a party and stuff like that. And how they would, use her for photo ops, but then, they would kind of kick her to the curb when it was time to talk about something else. In the sense that like they wanted her disability to be on camera for like PR purposes and to show that they're a company that cares,
Mhm.
but in actuality they do nothing to support her. They do nothing to support disabled artists or disabled people in general. And like she noted that, and she noted how that made her feel, but she also noted that the reason why she continues to do what she does and book those type of places is because she wants somebody at home, a young disabled girl at home that wants to be a musician, to be able to look at her and say, I can do that,
Mhm.
you know? So I think that what you're talking about is like one of the biggest problems because it's just like, what is it called? Performative activism.
Mhm.
Like literally just performative activism that just serves their image
Mhm.
and image. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
So my next question is, I guess, kind of the opposite of the last question. What do you think are the most impactful ways that the music industry is currently changing? or have you noticed? Have you noticed any?
Hmm. Honestly, I hate to be a pessimist. I really don't want to be a pessimist.
It's
I'm
okay.
sure that there's stuff happening and improvements that are happening, but from what I can see, I think the same problem, especially with marketing,
Mhm,
is still happening. You know,
mhm,
I still see, artists that are producing music that everybody could possibly enjoy, but they're being limited to one box and marketed to a certain group of people. And I'm trying to think of something good, but like I don't I haven't really seen much of a change. But hopefully we are the change. Hopefully we can be that change and feel that for sure.
definitely. Yeah. Um, so my next question is, so the idea of the cultural reset is to um, to expose these artists to the general public. What are some other ways that people can interact with your platform to sort of get a more, um, I guess, like a more robust idea of what that looks like?
So so how can people kind of visit our platform and kind of get more interaction with this type of content?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one, visit www.cultural-reset.com. And I mean that's the website address. But I think that they can, go to these interviews that we do. I think that they can, interact with the artists through their social media because like we post their social media information, we post their music. I hope that they can go and read the articles and find them and actually listen to, stream, like buy their music to actually support them.
Mhm.
Um, I think that people can also, I want to also mention that like we are always open to new volunteers as well. So if you were to visit our site and you were to, like what you see and want to become a part of the mission, we have a little button on the Meet the Team page. You can see our team of volunteers at the very bottom, where you can reach out to us and message us if you want to join the team. So that's a way that you can get in with the action. Um, Otherwise, I mean, again, we have the playlist. Like you can listen to the playlist, and that's actually I think one of the most effective ways to support the artists that we're putting on our platform. Just because that's actual money, that's actual revenue, so you're actually helping. Um, yeah, I think that the way the platform's set up right now is really really engaging. But also, I want to mention that we are trying to move into visual content as well.
Mhm.
So right now, the majority of our artist interviews they're written and they're audio, but eventually we're going to kind of transition into this format that allows people to kind of see the artist tell their story face to face. So we're just going to be doing like actual recordings of our interviews as well. Um, so that's on the way.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Are there any highlights from the past year since you, how many months is that? That's,
It's been like 3 months, I think, that we've been around.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Any
highlights.
any like really amazing artists? I mean, I'm sure they're all great, but
They're all really good. It's so hard to choose, Nick. Because like, you know what? Actually, I'll say this. We just interviewed an artist, and his interview is going to drop this Wednesday. And his name is Mel Sime. And I think I actually may have cried in the interview. Did that happen? It may have happened. I'm not quite sure. I think I teared up a little bit. But I love his story because he talked a lot about, where he came from, why he did music, who he writes his songs for, and just his entire journey throughout the industry. I thought he was a really, really good one because, you know, like we talk about the industry with the other artists as well, and we talked about it with him, but like his interview was definitely more focused on just being an artist, like just kind of being him, more specifically. It just felt really, really personable, really, really good. So, yeah. That's one of the highlights. I think we also, God, they're all so good. um, I think that we talked to Shayna. She's a Afro-Syrian artist, and she's American, and she is kind of an example of what we were talking about with kind of Black women being pitted against Rihanna, Beyonce, some of these big Black female names in the industry. And she does do like this pop sound and like this kind of like soulful type of music, but also like that's just not her performance style. So from her, we got a lot of information about what it's really like navigating that scape and how kind of the music industry treats women in general, like how biased they are against women in general. I think she was telling us that she got taken to dinner by somebody who promised to like help her with the production on her album or something like that. And she thought it was like a business meeting, but she got there and it turned out to be a date. Like the guy tricked her into a date. So disgusting, right? Like it's gross. So that was really insightful. Um, let me think of one more highlight. Oh gosh. We talked to, I think, Jazzy Mejia. She was a part of this internationally known like girl group called GRL.
Okay.
And she talked to us a lot about how important it is as an artist to kind of like to know everything you can, to learn everything you can, to be able to do everything yourself so you don't have to rely on other people and to rely on actors in the industry to sort of, support you in your career. So that's something that she did when she kind of left GRL and started on her own path as a solo artist. Like she learned production, she learned so much stuff, and she made her own connections, and she is starting to thrive as a solo artist.
Hmm.
That was really cool too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, Nick. I
No,
I don't I ramble a lot. So
yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, no worries. Um, that's pretty much all I have. And you mentioned a little bit about looking forward to next year with the visual platform. Is there anything else that people should keep an eye out for?
I would also say that we're starting to really branch out with our social media. So I mean, right now we're building our Instagram. So that's at TC Reset. And what we're starting to do is kind of just build up the feed with something we have as it's called a cultural resetter series. And
Mhm.
essentially, we're just going to be posting sort of infographics each week that are focused on like different people or different musicians and different facts about the industry. We're going to be doing stuff featuring like, songs that were movements in music that like caused big music movements in music, like facts about that. We're going to be like doing like facts about, artists that were like revolutionary, like like some revolutionary thing that they did. We're going to be posting that to our feed as well. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming. I will say that we're growing. We
Mhm.
are definitely growing, but we're in it for the long haul, and all of our volunteers are in it for the long haul. So definitely stay tuned.
Awesome. Sounds great. Um, yeah, I'm going to